This week in gaming, Atari is being sued. Mass Effect Andromeda is coming out on March 21st, 2017. Firewatch has sold over 1 million copies. The Consumer Electronics Show kicked off. Sega of Europe has registered ShenmueHD.com, so we might be getting an HD remake one day. And a rather interesting adventure has hit Steam. This is 1RBC Gaming Weekly.
I'm Jeff Joseph. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications and Strategic Relationships with the Consumer Technology Association, the organization that produces the CES each year.
First off, CES, or the Consumer Electronics Show, kicked off on January 5th and will be running until the 8th. And while it is a largely tech-focused show, there have been some announcements that will affect gaming. Thus far, NVIDIA has unveiled something rather interesting. A new version of their GeForce Now streaming software that will allow users to rent time on computers with NVIDIA GPUs. So let's say that you own a game on Steam, Origin, or Uplay, in which case I'm so sorry, and your computer just doesn't have the power to run these games. You can pay $25 for 10 hours on a PC with a GTX 1080, or you can pay $25 for 20 hours for a PC with a GTX 1060. This service will stream the games from the cloud to your computer. Access to the service is set to open up in March. Now personally, I like this idea for a cloud gaming service because the games aren't tied to the service, as they were with the now-defunct OnLive. Remember OnLive? They shut down in 2015, and any games that you'd purchase on the platform were gone when the platform went down. Having people purchase games once on a service dependent on servers actually running those games, well, that's expensive. Having people paying for the servers instead of the games? Brilliant. Personally, I never purchased anything on OnLive because, frankly, I didn't feel comfortable with the idea that my games could disappear with the service. Lo and behold, that's what happened. Now, to be clear, OnLive did have a subscription-based offering. You could pay monthly for access to a selection of AAA and indie games. But unfortunately for OnLive, this just wasn't enough to keep the lights on. Now, the issue that I take with NVIDIA's GeForce Now service is that it is a little on the pricey side. Suppose you pay $25 for access to a computer with the GTX 1060, the lower-end card. You can buy one of these cards for $265. That's the cost of almost 11 play sessions on NVIDIA service, or 220 hours. So if you're stuck with a low-end PC and don't do a whole lot of gaming, this might be a pretty good deal, assuming you have an internet connection robust enough to handle the streaming with minimum latency. However, if you'd prefer to do a lot of gaming on PC, it's more worthwhile to just build your own. You can put together a worthwhile gaming PC for around $600. That's about 480 hours in NVIDIA land. We'll be keeping an eye on this service when it launches in March. If you'd like to try it out, NVIDIA will be offering free trials. What do you think about NVIDIA's plans? Hit us up on Twitter at OneRuleBeCool and let us know. NVIDIA is not alone in the cloud gaming business, however, as this week a company called Liquid Sky announced their plans to offer a free tier of their cloud gaming service. Liquid Sky has a rather similar concept to NVIDIA's GeForce Now service, in that you can pay for access to a computer and play games through storefronts that you've already purchased them through. So your games on Steam and Origin can be played through the cloud. Now this new tier of access will allow you to go through 18 minutes of advertisements per day in order to experience up to 3 hours of gaming through their servers. Much like with NVIDIA's service, you can bring games you already own digitally to the platform. Just log in through Steam, Good Old Games, Origin, or what have you, and you're good to go. This has the real potential to be a game changer. After all, not everybody can afford a gaming PC. I imagine that there will be legions of kids overjoyed by this news. Kids who might have access to a parent's old PC or an Android phone or a MacBook, which, in case you're new to the wonderful world of gaming, is terrible and overpriced if you're looking for a gaming PC. My main concern regarding this free tier is advertising fatigue. How effective is advertising after you've sat through 18 minutes of ads? Will users even be paying attention? This concern alone should make ad executives clammy and sweaty. Scratch that. Clammier and sweatier than they usually are. That said, if ads on the platform can prove profitable for both advertisers and Liquid Sky, they could make a killing. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this up-and-coming platform, which is currently in beta. You can sign up for it at liquidsky.tv. We got some interesting virtual reality news out of CES this week regarding the HTC Vive. The device will be receiving a special peripheral called the Vive Tracker. This extra accessory, described as a puck, just needs to be popped onto any physical object, and boom, that object is tracked in VR. This could quite potentially shake things up in the VR space. Imagine a motion-tracked baseball game in VR in which you don't need to buy a fancy bat peripheral. Instead, you just pop the tracking puck onto your real bat, and you're good to go. Much like with the Wii, you might unwittingly murder your television with this method, so caution is necessary. Nonetheless, this has a lot of potential. At current, there's no word on how much it'll cost, but seeing as it's a VR peripheral, you can bet it'll be expensive. We also have another bit of Vive news from CES, specifically regarding the deluxe head strap, which comes with an integrated audio system. Again, there's no word on pricing for this, but it seems like a step in the right direction for the sake of comfort and usability. Of all the things unveiled at CES, however, nothing seems quite as ridiculous as, just look at this, okay? Yeah. That's Razer's Project Valerie, a triple-display laptop concept powered by an NVIDIA GTX 1080. I'll be personally disappointed if it launches into a real product and somehow isn't named the Razer Cobra. Because, you know, the Cobra hood thing? Yeah. What do you think? Would you want a laptop with 3 monitors? Does it sound more practical than Acer's Predator X21? Hit us up on Twitter at OneRuleBeCool and let us know. Now that we're in a new year, some interesting sales data has been released. Steam unveiled their top 100 sellers, and it's pretty interesting to see what games made the most money in 2016. The 100th game on the list is, interestingly enough, Astroneer, which was released at the tail end of 2016 in early access, and is a pretty cool space exploration and mining game. Going up the list, some older games, such as Garry's Mod and Terraria, continue to sell quite well, and Sid Meier's Civilization V and Skyrim sold quite a few copies in 2016 as well. Stardew Valley was the 16th highest grossing game of the year, having made, according to Steam Spy, an estimated $24 million. The 12 top grossing games of 2016 on Steam are, in descending order, Grand Theft Auto V, No Man's Sky, Dota 2, Total War Warhammer, Civilization 6, CSGO, XCOM 2, Tom Clancy's The Division, Rocket League, Fallout 4, Dark Souls 3, and The Witcher 3. Personally, I'm not surprised that GTA 5 has cinched the top spot, but I am surprised that the much-maligned No Man's Sky is in second place. If you've been following game news, you probably know that No Man's Sky was massively hyped, launched, and was a big disappointment because it wasn't everything that the developers were promising it would be. While they have been bringing updates to the game in order to improve it, the player reviews remain at mostly negative. In fact, it's the only game in the top 12 to have a mostly negative player response, while The Division and Total War Warhammer are mixed. The other games are rated positively by the majority of players. 2016 was an interesting time in the game industry. Over 4,700 games were added to Steam. To put that in perspective, about 40% of the games currently on Steam were released in 2016, thus making it a landmark year. If you're a developer, you might be wondering about how to stand out from the crowd. If that's the case, have I got the book for you. Now available on Amazon and itch.io is Playing the Press. Written by yours truly, it's a guide to reaching game journalists and getting your game covered. It contains practical advice on writing press releases, hitting the road at shows like PAX, and handling negative press. It's currently 25% off on itch.io. If you want more info, you can check it out at OneRuleBeCool.com. Steam wasn't the only store to reveal its top sellers. Sony unveiled their top digital games for their platforms. Number 1 on PS4, unsurprisingly, is Rocket League, followed by Battlefield 1, Minecraft, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and Tom Clancy's The Division. The top 5 games on the Vita, meanwhile, are Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, Minecraft, God Eater Resurrection, XCOM Enemy Unknown Plus, and Borderlands 2. Sony also unveiled the top PlayStation VR games. Job Simulator takes the top spot, followed by Batman Arkham VR, Until Dawn Rush of Blood, PlayStation VR Worlds, and Bomb Defusal Simulator and Friendship Tester, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. In Overwatch news, a new map called Oasis has been released. Having played a few rounds on it, I've got to say that it's a very good-looking map. I have yet to form a full opinion on it, but I do appreciate that in one of the map's phases, the pit in the middle is a whole other layer to the map. It can certainly make for some interesting plays as Pharah or Torbjorn. In other Overwatch news, it has been announced that Roadhog will be getting something of a nerf. It will no longer be possible to hook players that you can't see. Thus, you can avoid getting dropped into bottomless pits, hooked around corners. Basically, getting hooked by Roadhog is about to become a lot fairer. Regarding the current lawsuit against Atari, the shambling husk of a game company is being sued by Frontier Developments regarding royalties. Frontier Developments worked on the Atari-published Roller Coaster Tycoon free, and Atari has thus far paid them $1.17 million in royalties. Frontier, however, claims that Atari owes an additional $2.2 million. In a statement made to GameSpot, Frontier COO David Walsh says, "We have so far been denied our contractual right to audit by Atari. That is to say, Atari will not reveal the sales of the game to the company that made it. A bad sign, it seems." You may remember that a few weeks back we covered the launch of Roller Coaster Tycoon World, the latest game in the franchise which, thus far, has been a bit of a disaster. Looking at the reviews on Steam, it seems that the players hate the game, which, regrettably, was definitely rushed out of the gate. It's glitchy, lacking content, and seems to be lacking a soul. It's disappointing to hear this news about Atari, but it is completely unsurprising. The company isn't the boundary-breaking, industry-building innovator that it once was. These days, it's just a name attached to a couple of IPs. It's branding and little else. While Atari does publish new games these days, such as the aforementioned Roller Coaster Tycoon World, they haven't done much else, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, for the sake of Frontier Developments, this matter is resolved swiftly. While we're talking about disappointing gaming news, some racing games have been removed from Steam, specifically Race Driver Grid, F1 2013, and Dirt 3. All these games were developed by Codemasters, and it seems that the reason for their removal is due to expiring licenses. Basically, when games license music, it's not a perpetual contract most of the time. Record labels will usually only license music for the shelf life of the game, so this doesn't cause problems for games with limited print runs. The thing is, however, video games are no longer constrained to physical media. Games don't just go out of print anymore. If you didn't grab any of these free games, unfortunately it's a little bit too late now as they've been removed from digital storefronts. You can still, however, grab used physical copies from Amazon. In game releases this week, Milkmaid of the Milky Way was released on iOS as well as on Steam for Mac and Windows. Now this game has a really unusual setting and premise. You play as a Norwegian milkmaid in the 1920s whose life is changed when an alien craft suddenly appears in her fjord. As if that's not exciting enough, the game's story is written entirely in rhyme. Now thus far, Milkmaid of the Galaxy has gotten great reviews from both players and the press. So if you're looking for a charming point-and-click adventure, check out Milkmaid of the Milky Way. If you owned a Nintendo 64, you might have played Pokemon Snap, which was a rather atypical Pokemon game in that you weren't trying to capture the titular creatures with Pokeballs. Instead, you were trying to capture them on film. It's a strange game in general, but it has its fans. This week, Pokemon Snap was released on the Wii U's Virtual Console service. It is unfortunate that this Wii U version of the game doesn't really take advantage of the Wii U's tablet controller and its gyroscope. However, from what I've been hearing, the game runs just fine. If you've ever wanted to take pictures of Pokemon, here you go. Finally, we have the latest trailer for the upcoming adventure puzzler, Rhyme, which is set to be released on the Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Windows, May of 2017. Enjoy! Well, that's it for this week's game news. For all the greatest game news and editorials, be sure to follow at OneRuleBeCool on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views.